Good afternoon to you, Mark Sudduth, HurricaneTrack.com, here with your Hurricane Pro and HD video blog for Monday, the 21st of October, 2013. Hey, look at this. Out in the Atlantic Ocean, we have what is probably Tropical Storm Lorenzo here. This is Bermuda, if I can find it. Right there. There's Bermuda, obviously Florida, the Carolinas, so it's way on out there to the east of everybody in the open Atlantic. Not going to bother anyone. Pretty good outflow associated with it, so it's a small system, probably a tropical storm, at the 5 p.m. Eastern Time advisory package, which will come out shortly after I record this video. And if so, it'll be called Lorenzo. Looking at the forecast track, it is not going to head towards land. In fact, it'll move on out even farther away from the east coast of the United States. Forecast to become a tropical storm by probably the next 50 minutes or so, and remain so over the next few days before weakening out here in the open waters of the North Atlantic as hostile environmental conditions set in. You never know. Sometimes these small systems can find a very favorable environment, even for a short period of time, and become a hurricane. I doubt that'll happen with this system, but you never know. That is certainly what happened here with Hurricane Raymond. This time yesterday, just a tropical depression, tropical storm, and it was well on its way to becoming a major hurricane overnight last night. Fortunately, the track, which was up like this, the past track, now it's turned off, and it will be turning off more so to the west-southwest and away from the Mexican coastline. That really would have been a disaster for a small area. Need to point that out. Raymond, a very small hurricane, but it managed to become the season's first major hurricane of either basin, either the Pacific or the Atlantic. Raymond made it up to Category 3 overnight, and you can see it's a very small, compact hurricane, very small area of hurricane force winds, upper level winds pulling off some of the moisture across Mexico, even streaming that over Texas. But again, it's going to move away from Mexico off to the southwest like that over the next few days and not be any more issue for that part of Mexico. Pretty small area that is affecting with heavy rain today. That will start to subside tomorrow. Elsewhere around the globe, we do have Typhoon Francisco headed towards Japan. This definitely has the making of being a big disaster for Japan in the coming days as it turns the corner. Looking at a satellite shot, you can see this is a very large typhoon with a huge wind field, and that's going to push a lot of water out ahead of it towards Japan. And right now the track has it going across Tokyo Bay, just to the west of Tokyo or right over it, and that would put Tokyo Bay to the east of what we call the right front quadrant, where all the wind is onshore, flowing onshore. So that could be a big problem there. We'll continue to look at that over the coming days as it closes in on Japan. Then we have another tropical storm to its east. We'll watch that. And the southern hemisphere season starting to ramp up with an area of interest, Invest 93P down here in the southern Pacific, tropical Pacific. So all kinds of things going on globally, even though there is nothing menacing land just yet. I think the biggest problem again will be Francisco here as it turns off towards Japan. Now, looking down the road a spell, I thought it would be interesting to check out what may be happening with the Madden-Julian oscillation, the MJO. That fosters upward motion in the atmosphere over the next couple of weeks. This is the GFS forecast showing pretty favorable MJO, very tightly clustered ensemble members there, really favoring a phase 1 enhancement. Interesting that the Euro does not show this. In fact, if we go back to the source graphic, this is the Euro showing the same time period, and it comes in with a little bit of an amplification and then it just goes right back in. Really not much of an amplification of the MJO at all. So a pretty big discrepancy between what the Euro has and what the GFS has for the Madden-Julian oscillation coming into the Western Hemisphere. As such, just to show you what might happen when you have a favorable MJO, this is way on out, November the 5th, way out in time. Lots of cold air. That's what this blue line is the freezing temperature at 2 meters. above the ground, so it's pretty cold over the United States. But lo and behold, down here in the Caribbean Sea, the GFS trying to crank up a tropical cyclone as it starts to sense that upward motion, which allows for convection to develop and foster and proliferate, whatever you want to call it, organize and develop. So maybe as we get into November, there will be one more, possibly two, tropical cyclones developing in the Atlantic Basin. This is part of the forecast, actually, from Colorado State University, Dr. Phil Klotzbach, citing a busy end to the hurricane season relative to average. He's forecasting, I believe, 11 additional ACE points, or accumulated cyclone energy index points, just a fancy way of saying that maybe one or two more players will score some points, so to speak, to put it into simple terms. So maybe as we get into the 1st of November, we'll have to be watching the Caribbean Sea for some type of development to take place that could affect the Greater Antilles, perhaps Cuba, maybe Hispaniola. Sometimes the Bahamas have to deal with these systems as they form and then maybe recurve out. You just never know. So we'll be watching that closely as we get towards the end of the month, but the next few days are going to be kind of chilly for the lower 48 with no worries from the tropics, and certainly for Mexico, at least Raymond will be moving away. And the big story will be Francisco out in the West Pacific and what impacts that has on Japan. And I will keep monitoring that in the days ahead. Have a good rest of your Monday. That's it from me for today. Again, I'm Mark Sudduth, HurricaneTrack.com for Hurricane Pro in HD. I'll talk to you again tomorrow.